Bonjour! Today we're going to be looking at leçon 1, parole. So this is the very first lesson of chapter 1. If you hear any other voices in the background, those are probably my children, so try to disregard those and just sort of focus on what we're going through here. The first thing we're going to talk about is les bonnes manières. So manners are very important in French culture, and you see this not only in just how they act, but also in the words that they use and say. So if you look at this very first paragraph, it tells you in the French-speaking world, different greetings reflect the differing degrees of familiarity between people. So formality is the general rule. If you are in doubt as to whether you should be formal or informal with someone, you always choose formal. And then they will indicate to you if they use an informal tense as to whether or not they are comfortable with you using that informal tense. So informal expressions, they tell us in this paragraph, are reserved for family, friends of long standing, and close associates and peers, like your fellow students. And then all formal greetings are followed by a title. So usually you will see or hear something like Bonjour madame, bonjour monsieur, bonjour mademoiselle. So you're not just going to hear bonjour in and of itself. You'll hear a title with it. And you're going to see that in these first few examples. Now these are in your ebook where you can listen to them many times so you can practice saying them and getting your accent as close as you can to what they say. So you'll see in this first example we have bonjour mademoiselle, and then she responds bonjour madame. So both of them are using more formal expressions. And then again in the second, bonsoir monsieur, bonsoir madame. So now we're talking about evening time, right? But they were still being formal, using the monsieur and the madame. If we continue on to the next picture, we see Je m'appelle Lucas Martin. Et vous, comment vous appelez-vous? And right away we notice that he is using vous. And that vous, that V-O-U-S, is indicating that he is using a formal tense. And throughout his entire question, he uses that. Et vous, comment vous appelez-vous? Right? And you, what is your name? And so she responds, Je m'appelle Juliette Dupont. Right? So she introduces herself. Then we continue on, and we see this older couple, and they say, Comment allez-vous? And again, you notice vous at the end of the question, V-O-U-S. And the response, Très bien, merci. Et vous? Pas mal, merci. So again, you're going to see that politeness. You're using the vous, V-O-U-S, but you're also using the merci, which is going to indicate a thank you. And then, of course, you're going to respond, Et vous? You want to ask them because that is polite in French culture. Now in this next section here, this next picture, you will see that the vous is not here. So we see Salut, ça va? Oui, ça va bien. Or you could say Non, ça va mal. Et toi? Comment vas-tu? Comme ci, comme ça. Or you could say Ça peut aller. You could say Moyen. So again here you don't see vous at all, but you see several indications of an informal speech. First we see instead of bonjour we see salut. That is an informal expression. Ça va? That's a way to ask how someone is, and again in an informal way. And you see in the response, ça va bien. Another informal indication we have is toi. Et toi. So the vous, the V-O-U-S, and the toi, and then the tu that you will see all mean you. But this tu and toi are informal, whereas vous is formal. And then they say comme ci, comme ça. So these responses are more informal. Let's look at the next conversation. It says, Comment? Je ne comprends pas. Répétez, s'il vous plaît. So here now we're seeing our verb is using an EZ form, and that's connected to vous, and we will learn that later. And that indicates a more formal response. And then, of course, we see vous in s'il vous plaît, because that's the word please. Okay, it's a longer word in French. Multiple words mean please, but you see that vous. And so again, that's more formal. C'est Lise Bernard. Ah oui, je comprends. And then here we go. We have someone knocking into another. So we see the oh, pardon. Excusez-moi, mademoiselle. So that excusez with that easy, like I said in the last example, that easy will go with vous. And we will learn that when we learn how to conjugate our verbs. And that indicates that this is a more formal situation. Merci beaucoup de rien. Okay, that can be used in formal or informal. And then, of course, your goodbye. Au revoir, à bientôt. Those can be used informal or formal. They are a little bit more formal. A lot of young people will have other expressions, which if you look on your text on page 9, they do tell you le parler jeune, if you want to know how or some of the expressions that young people use. You can see those over there. So they might say à plus, meaning à plus tard, or à bientôt. It's just a shortened form of that. Ça baigne, that means ça va très bien. It's going very well. They might say ciao, which means au revoir. They might say wesh, and that means salut, ça va? So, of course, just like we have slang, they have slang in French. So, let's look at a few examples here. And this is exercise C on page 9 of your text. You should find that on your ebook. And they just want to know, is this formal or informal? So let's go through a few of these to make sure that we're understanding this. So number 1 says, comment vous appelez-vous? Do you see anything that indicates whether it's formal or informal? If you said yes, vous, which means it's formal, you're correct. Number 2, et toi? Do you see anything that indicates formal or informal? If you said informal, you're correct. That toi, that T-O-I. It's a little bit of a glare on mine. Hopefully you can see it there. Number 3, you say répète s'il te plaît. Now when we looked at the examples, we had répétez s'il vous plaît. So that, I told you, was the formal. So here number 3 is showing you this is the informal. Répète s'il te plaît. That t goes with our tu. Okay, number 4. Comment vas-tu? Formal or informal? If you chose informal, that's correct. We see our tu at the end, that tu. That indicates you. That's informal. Number 5. Comment t'appelles-tu? Do you see anything that indicates formal or informal? If you chose informal, you're correct. That tu, once again. Number 6. Bonjour, monsieur. Is this informal or more formal? We would say it's more formal. You're saying the bonjour as opposed to salut, and you see the monsieur. Number 7. Et vous? Is this formal or informal? If you choose formal, you're correct. That vous is telling us. Number 8. Salut. Is this informal or formal? If you chose informal, you're correct. Salut is an informal way to say hello. Number 9. Répétez s'il vous plaît. So this is kind of the contrary to number 3, right? In number 3, we saw répète s'il te plaît. And we decided that one was informal. So here's our formal. Répétez s'il vous plaît. So number 9 is formal. And finally, number 10. Comment allez-vous? Do you see anything that indicates whether it's formal or informal? If you chose formal, you're correct, because we see the vous once again. So when you're listening in French, listen for that tu and that vous. Listen for words like madame, monsieur, mademoiselle. And of course, you want to listen for different words as compared to bonjour, compared to salut, or the difference between comment allez-vous and ça va, because those are going to give you the indication as to whether something is formal or informal. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope this helps.